morning, everyone. Just before we start, a couple of housekeeping mentions. And I know we really didn't want to stop the music, and we will start the music again very shortly with the libation. So thank you, Alphonse, Richard, and Mike. Wonderful music, thank you. So we're here for the launch of the One Bristol Curriculum, and we do have people online. We will have more people here today, but we understand that because of COVID, we have to be social distance. There can't be more than 4 people at a table. If you want to wear your masks, obviously, we would encourage you to wear your masks, but please do not fill up the spaces. We are social distanced, and we can't jeopardize that. So the council have kindly given us this privilege, this hall, to use for this event. So social distancing absolutely rules today. So thank you to the council for allowing us to be here. And they wouldn't give it to anyone. So we are very, very privileged and lucky. There is no fire alarm, but in the event, could we go to the cathedral if we needed to? Ladies and gents toilets are on the upper ground floor, which are accessed by the steps down from the main foyer. Accessible toilets can be found either side of the hall on the first floor, this floor. The security guards are trained. They're trained first aiders who can help in any emergency if we need them. And we've been asked to ask you to turn your laptops and mobile devices off when there's a presentation happening, because it may interfere with the speaker. So I think that's all the housekeeping. Just to say that we are live streaming, so there will be people coming around with photographs, with cameras. If you do not want to be photographed, please just let them know that you do not want to be photographed. But we do have Naomi, who has just graduated from the University of the West of England, taking pictures for us. Brilliant that you've just graduated. Congratulations. She will be taking pictures, but again, put your hand up if you don't want photographs taken. So we're going to be starting in just a few minutes' time. And as we start, we're going to ask the drummers to continue as we go into a libation to kick the event off. If there's anyone outside who needs to come in now, please do come in, find your seats. We have 3 minutes to do that. Thank you, and then we will start. Thank you, Alphonse. So everybody here today and everyone joining us on live stream, we are offering an African libation at this event. It's a moment in time and our time. We are closing the gaps in education. We are changing the narrative. And in this libation, we wish for understanding and open-mindedness. We wish for inspiration. We wish for confidence to talk truth. We wish for a new way of listening. And we wish for One Bristol Curriculum to be accepted in every school in Bristol. And we wish that it is respected and sustained for the benefit of all our children in Bristol. Thank you. That concludes our libation. We have started. So good morning everyone. Good morning to head teachers among us, joining us online, and head teachers who are here in person. We welcome also students. We welcome parents. We welcome teachers. We welcome the community. This is a very, very special day, the One Bristol Curriculum launch. It's been a long time coming. And I'm very pleased to be a part of it. I was first told about this 2 years ago by Esther Deans and asked me if I would like to be involved in any way. Immediately, of course, I said yes. It was the wrong time for me to put both feet in. But here we are, 2 years on, and I've got both feet in. I have no excuse and no choice. I have 5 children, 3 of whom have already been through the education system, and 2 who are going through the education system now. I have no choice. This is the best thing for my children. So, One Bristol Curriculum, like I say, a long time coming, and we all have our education stories, don't we? And some of those will be shared today. Now, many of us have been involved in educational initiatives over the years, and we're going back years. And I'm not saying that things haven't happened, because things have happened, and some things have worked, but it's short term. It's funding specific, which isn't fair. We're talking about the education of all our children. And some children are failing, while some children are achieving. And that's not fair either. We need achievement with all our children. But what I want to say is that inch by inch is a cinch. You know, the more we do, the more we will achieve. And everything that's gone before is valid. Everything that is going now is valid. And everything that we do in the future is valid. So it is getting better for our children. But we are all responsible for that. Parents, we are responsible. Head teachers, you are responsible. Young people, yourselves, you have to take responsibility. And teachers in the classroom, you are responsible. It's all of us. We're all in this together. But I have to say, this one seems a bit different. The One Bristol Curriculum seems different. A school curriculum that reflects me and represents me. That's different. Children have to realize that, and they will. And the different thing is that we're talking about infiltration at every age, every stage, and in every subject. Now that's something. So this morning we'll hear about what the One Bristol Curriculum is, how it works, and where we go from here. But first of all, I would like to ask our Mayor of Bristol, to come up to address us online and here, fresh from COP26. Can I invite Mayor Marvin Rees to come and open the event for us today? Thank you, Marvin. Thanks, Marvin.
Thanks very much. And it's actually quite a juxtaposition to come from COP, where we've been talking about existential threats to humanity, whether the planet is going to be able to sustain us in the future. And one of the points I've been making is, certainly for climate activism, is that we need to look at these existential threats that are coming 10, 15 years away, although depending on the country, if you look at a place like Nigeria, it's happening right now. But also people are struggling today. And some people's existential threat, as we've experienced recently with the murder in Bristol, is happening on our streets right now. So we have to address the immediate injustices that are going on right now. Let me start just by giving some thanks, because that's the most important thing to do. And that is to Cognitive Paths and the Race Equality and Education Group, who've really picked this up and made this real, taking it from idea to something that's going to be real in our schools and by extension in the lives of our young people. I was asked to say a little bit about my experience in school, and it's timely because I happened to be on the phone the other morning to Pastor Vieira, I think it's Bishop Vieira now, from Tudor Road. And we ended up talking about Jeanette Vieira, his wife. So when I was at St. George, I wasn't allowed to go to, it got to a point where I wasn't allowed to go to chemistry and computer studies anymore. Teacher just said, don't come back. That was at the end of my fourth year. So I was dropped for that final year of GCSEs. And I used to go during my chemistry lesson to see Miss Vieira. And we'd sit in a room next to the science lab. And she would just talk with me. And we'd just talk. And she'd say, what's going on for you, Marvin? What's happening in your life? And actually, I realized, I knew what it was then. It was about me being encouraged and all the rest of it. But it was really about who I was, having a sense of self. She could see that as a young mixed-race kid growing up in 1980s Bristol, in the middle of all this tension that we experienced, I was a lost kid. And so what I was experiencing at the time was a lack of narrative in me. I was terrified of failing. A lot of my school reports would say, Marvin, you have a lot of ability, but you're not doing any work. That's why your grades are so poor. And my terror that actually had immobilized me for years was, okay, they think I'm smart, and the reason I'm not getting good grades is because I don't do any work. But what if I actually work hard and I don't get good grades? They're going to realize I'm actually not as smart as they think I was. And that immobilized me for years, to the point that I only actually really started to do some work in school with about 6 months to go before my GCSEs. Because I sat in my bedroom one night after a school teacher wrote a report, and I realized, and I made the balance of risk, and I realized that if I work hard and they find out I'm not as smart as they think I am, that's a risk. But if I kept doing what I was doing, I was going to leave school with nothing. And I ended up at GCSE with 5 C's and a D. And the 5 C's was just enough to get me into sixth form. And once I turned up in sixth form, I thought, okay, I've learned a lesson now, we're going to crack on. But it was someone coming alongside me. It was one of the inputs I had that gave me a sense of self, a sense of who I was. And also, I faced a dynamic in school of which, interesting, I was just in the United States with a number of African-American mayors. And they were telling me the same story. Being a black kid in school and being put in the top set and being by yourself. And like being, so St. George at the time, to be perfectly frank, the white kids came from Upchurch Road, St. George, Hannam area, and black, mixed race, Asian kids came from the eastern side. So once I got into class, I was with all the kids from St. George. And I just felt isolated on a day-to-day basis. I remember one English lesson where an outside teacher came in to do race. it was excruciating. I was there by myself, racial tensions in this class, and they start talking about race, and I was embarrassed. I felt like there was a spotlight on me. I wanted the floor to swallow me up. So what did I do? I began acting up because I was embarrassed. I wanted to reject this. I didn't want to be a part of this nightmare situation, I was in. So but ultimately, education was my route map, wasn't it, right? 5 C's, I got across the line. I said, right, whatever happens from here, doesn't matter if I fail, I'm going to give it a go. And I've carried that kind of mantra forward, even up to going for mayor. Even if I fail, I'm going to give it a go. I'm always going to say yes to whatever challenge comes my way. Now, what we're talking about here with the Bristol One Curriculum, for me, is part of that investment in the resilience, in the ability of our young people to go in and give it a go, because you've got that safety net, right? It begins to put that foundation in people's lives that mean that even if I fail, right, even if I'm exposed as not good enough to achieve something at a particular point in time, I have a foundation in me, in my sense of self, in my sense of history, in my sense of community, that is strong enough that my very being will not be shattered, which is what I feared. Once I begun to get that core in myself, then the fear of failure began to disappear. And once I'd overcome that fear of failure, then obviously, like I said, it was I knocked around with the Marines for a little while. I boxed. I went off to university. All those things become things that I could face. And it's not that fear ever disappears. I think Mike Tyson said, everyone experiences fear. Heroes and cowards experience fear. The difference between a coward and a hero is whether they allow the fear to stop them doing stuff. So it's not that you overcome that fear. It's just that you've got that foundation in place to allow you to face up to it. And if you do fail, you can overcome it and keep cracking on. And this One Curriculum is that investment, isn't it? It's in the core self and identity, of who we are. I love what you said there, Sheree, about change the narrative, right? Ben Okri, if any of you know, the West African author, said, if you want to destroy a people, poison the stories they tell about themselves. Right? When we got poisonous stories about who we are and where we come from, or no story at all, we are destroyed. And again, grabbing hold of who we are in our curriculum is all the key part of that. There's some brutal politics around this. It's all tied up with institutional racism and discrimination. In 2015, the Runnymede Trust identified Bristol as the 7th worst city to be black in. Inequalities in education and employment. These are all things you'll know. 2017, they identified that, and again, it's a problematic term, but ethnic minorities in Bristol experienced greater disadvantage than in other UK cities. In 2018, obviously as well, Aisha Thomas's documentary pointed out we just had 28 black teachers in the school. We cannot have a whole system, a conveyor belt, a whole section of society with such low representation. Education is not unique in that. Politics, even though we've been doing a big effort to change that. Also suffers from it. I see Sangeeta as well running and didn't get in. Really, we've got to happen next time. We've got to have that. But we have to come into these territories to make sure that these institutions, the narratives, the clearly articulated narratives, and those things that are not said, right, work for our young people. Just to say on the importance of that, it's not just good for our young people from our black communities, our Asian communities. This is good for the whole city. I'm really minded about something that David Olusoga says when they was talking about statues, even pre-Colston. When people were arguing about it, David said, listen, this is not an emotional discussion. This is just about whether you do good quality history, right? We've said this about the History Commission. No one's setting out to destroy anyone's sense of self or rewrite history. This is just about being a good quality historian. So when we do a curriculum, when we have a Bristol One Curriculum, this is not about political correctness or wokeness or anything like that. This is just about saying we are international. Cities are international organizations, right? Again, I've just been with all the mayors. This is what we talk about. This is just about making sure that the curriculum our children get in these things, these global things called cities that are all around the world, that have 200 countries of origin, 100 languages spoken, to make sure that the curriculum that is offered to the young people growing up in those things, whether they're here, New York, Los Angeles, Paris, things like 100 black interns in Bristol as well. What we also have to do is match the employment, the entrepreneurship, the finance, the political opportunities off the back of the education system as well. That's something that myself and Ash have been working on incredibly hard with businesses like Hargreaves Lansdown and Bevan Britton as well within the city. So thank you. I think on a very basic level, I say let's make sure that we equip our young people to have that resilience to overcome any challenge that comes their way. Succeed or not, they might succeed next time as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Marvin. That was brilliant. Thank you so much, Marvin. So much appreciated, and thanks for your time. So I want to introduce you to the steering group, some who are here and some watching online. They've all worked hard to get to this place, and thank you so much for the work, the effort, the time, the passion that you've put into it. So I'd like to shout out Neil Blundell, Executive Principal of Cathedral School, Professor Paul Olomoji, Pro-Vice Chancellor at UWE, Dr. Sean Sobers, Associate Professor of Cultural Interleadership Practice, Nisha Hussain, who is a youth counsellor, Belnice Zinga, who is also a youth counsellor, Dave Watson, CEO, Venturers Trust, Sue Coombs, Equality in Education and Skills, and Ruth Pitter from One Bristol Group. Finally, I would like to introduce Roger Griffiths, who was very much involved in that very first conversation, the city conversation, almost 3 years ago. He's an original steering group member. Can I welcome Roger Griffiths, MBE?
Microphone. Thank you, and it's a pleasure to be here. Quite strange for me to be back in this building. This is where part of my educational journey began, here in this very room. My thanks to the Mayor and the steering group and everybody inviting me here today. I'm going to share with you my educational journey really today. And it begins with this man. And this book, and in it he wrote, "Education is a passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to the people who prepare for it today." And those were the words of Malcolm X, a man who transformed my life through his words, not just his fight for racial justice, but from his prison cell, and his ability to redeem himself and to do better. And that really spoke to me as a young teenager. You see, because I was on the building sites, I left school without any qualifications. And I remember being driven home by a friend and colleague who we would go on to work in this building. His name's Winston Williams, and he said, "You can do better with what you're doing." And finally, the penny dropped. So when we talk about education, we need our, people from within the community and our mentors to help us do that. Because around my way in Lawrence Weston, where he was dropping me back to the bus stop to, we're not quite useless, but only worthy for the factories at Avonmouth, where Marvin used to be once upon a time. All the Bristol building sites, which I came out of. And that's why I ended up crashing out of school without a qualification to my name. Nobody spoke to us about university. Nobody I knew went to university. Nobody talked about university. None of my family went to university. Nobody I knew did those things. It was for some other beings and people. And that's, Lawrence Weston, as you know, for those online, is a white working class area. So those things, when we hear about them, have been going on for decades, quite literally. And I know, because I've got that lived experience. And that colonial curriculum, it failed to inspire me. So I left school without a qualification to my name. It took me 10 years to turn Malcolm X's words into action. And that was through a positive action course in Seed, where I met and was mentored by Paul Hassan. And I went from those building sites to training housing officer, and I came into here. This was my office once upon a time. I left as a senior housing manager. And that was only thanks to my support of my colleagues, white, brown and black hands that helped mentor and coach and learn me, and of course my community. So that educational journey went from the dole queue, confronting racism, staying away from drugs in prison, to courses. And some of those courses were in the community as well, in Halston Drive. Housing supervision courses, management, leadership, coaching, counselling. I just swallowed them all up. Culture as well. I had spiritual lessons from Dr. King, Mandela, Maya Angelou, and this book, Gary Young, taught about the Black British experience through the Deep South, which I would go on to emulate. Taught me it can happen. Because if you don't see these things, you can't really believe them. I was 27 till I saw a black teacher. It was like a black unicorn, really. And I'm talking to somebody who's witnessed the inauguration of a black president. Seeing a black teacher was something that took me till 27 years of age to see. And, if you can't see it, you can't believe it as well. So these things educated me about my identity and, finding out about things like Carnival. Claudia Jones, the work that was done there in Notting Hill when after the riots that occurred there. And it's great to see one Jones pass another torch to another Jones, lawyer McAllister Jones here in Bristol, her educational project as well. So we need these things that are around us, the stuff that Lawrence is doing through Cargo. They are really important when you're coming through, when you don't have that formal education. I can't impress on you how much these things matter, how much these interventions matter. They matter to me as I turned from a boy man into what I am today. So I continue today. I'm still studying. I'm writing a play and non-fiction courses, involved in environmental campaigns there, with mentoring and working with Nisha Bevan. We've just done some women leaders of colour through our Black Seas network working. I now teach at a university, and I have to pinch myself each time I'm there. And we've done the Windrush Generation projects with Aisha Airy and Mia Ning as well, through my consultancy as well. So when you get those stings of go black home and far worse, and it's quite something when you're actually born here, I can assure you, that sting is painful. But learning about that experience through the curriculum, and how much we've given this to this country from Africa, from Asia, and of course the Caribbean, well before the 492 pioneers changed the face of Britain. So, my congratulations here, not just to everybody who's helped me today. My congratulations also to, not Dr. Sean Sobers, he's Professor Sean Sobers. So congratulations to him, and of course Naomi coming up through today as well. So these mentors, advocates, champions, allies, whatever you call yourself, are vital in what we need to assist our future leaders. And as Leo Goodridge inspired me and told me to give back, and I took those skills into leadership, leading into Ajima for 10 years to make the best of other skills and talents as well. And it came from that, from the conversation with Mike Norton from Bristol Post, from Tom Morris, Bristol Vic, who's very much a broker in this, and that helped us have the city conversations. We took those conversations into Hartcliffe, into white areas. Imagine that. Not before or since there have been conversations about race and identity in the city. And out of that, the city spoke and said they wanted better education and within the curriculum. It was great to have that validation, and I stepped back, and it's fantastic work from Sibs, from Esther, Ruth, Sherry, all the committees as well. Dennis Burns, another one, have all helped and fund and take us and push us there. It takes us all to get here. So, very proud of that work and the work that I've been part to forge from that conversation that took place. And I'm even delighted to be, as I say, back here and receive this honour of speaking today. I want to leave you with a poem, and I'm going to dedicate it to all people like Brian, lovely conversations that I've had with the guards and the staff of City Council for my 18 years that I worked here. And this is called Connected My Education. Without qualifications, I was thrown to the scrap heap where I landed with a bump. Let me tell you, from the dole queue to where I stand proudly today, this was quite a jump. It was understanding that history thing that I failed at school could also be kind of cool. In my quest for answers to my heritage, I saw the educational light, and it gave me brand new insight. Before, there were places that were on the map that were mere spots. Now, as a social historian, it was like an enlightening game of join the dots. More connections were made along my way. The more I studied, it became a regular habit, each and every day. Whenever I bit into a sweet Georgia peach that I was holding, I remembered the inspiration of the Lord Lieutenant Miss of Bristol, Miss Peaches Golden. In Alabama, Rosa Parks sparked controversy by refusing to give up her seat, giving inspiration to Roy Hackett and Guy Reed Bailey. All they ever wanted was for injustice to be beat. For they too had found strength in Dr. King's inspiration, as well as dignity and leadership. Just ask our own Paul Stevenson. So now I no longer wonder what I will become. I just look at our history and gain strength in what we have done. And although I may have found an inner peace, fear not, my search for my education and justice will never cease. My name is Roger Griffith. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Roger. Thank you so much, Roger. Much appreciated. Great words. And also, you've given us all something to think about there. Thank you, Roger Griffiths. So we move on, and I don't want time to run away with us, so let's be in charge of time. Next up, can I introduce the drivers? We all need driving forces in any organisation. And in this One Bristol Curriculum, I'd like to welcome to the stage now to talk about what One Bristol Curriculum is, how it works, and where we go from here. In a nutshell, can I call up Esther Deans and Sibusu Sashalala?
Right, well, good morning, everyone. It's so lovely to see all of you. And I want to say a personal thank you, because I've worked with so many of you. It's like being amongst friends, okay? And today is a really, really special day. And Marvin, I hope you're listening, because we are creating ripples and waves that are turning into tsunamis that you can't turn back from. Because change is here, change has been coming for a long time, and we're now at the point where we can actually help that change to happen even faster through One Bristol Curriculum. So I'm going to take you on a little journey of where this comes from. We're going to start with my journey, and then I'm going to take you into the One Bristol Curriculum. Okay, so I grew up in the back streets of Hackney, a Jamaican girl and Jamaican family, and at 4 years old, I decided that what I wanted to do was to teach. That was my dream. And when I say that to children at school, they're like, "That was your dream, miss?" But when you're coming from the back streets of Hackney, that's a big, big dream. And I worked hard to be able to do all the things I needed, and I loved history particularly. And one day my brother came in and he said, "You know what, if you love history so much, why don't you learn your own?" And I looked at him like, "What are you talking about?" And then he just threw a book at me, and it was called Great People of Colour. And for the first time ever, I had people that I could identify with. And I know that's a journey that many people go on today. People my age, people my son's age. My son's just 22. I talk to people all the time, and they talk about having to find out about their history. And that's not good enough. When I finally got into the education system, I watched the inequalities that happened, and it broke my heart. You know, some of us escaped out of Hackney and made good, some of us didn't. But it doesn't mean that we just leave those people behind, because we know that those inequalities happen. They happened then, they're happening now, and we still see it in our schools today. And so we can't just turn away and think, okay, well, that's all right, it's good enough. And when we look at the education figures that we see that widening gap between white and non-white students. We see within the Runnymede Report Trust in 2017, Bristol was called a city divided. And it talked very specifically about the whiteness of the curriculum. It talked very specifically about the lack of black teachers in our schools. And it talked very specifically about the lack of engagement with our black parents. And so therefore, we need to make sure that we are doing something that is proactive. And for me, tinkering about and having a little bit of extra black history is not going to be enough. Although I'm really grateful for all of the people that are working within the area, and I hope that we can really have that great collaboration in Bristol. So what we're looking at in One Bristol Curriculum is we're looking at something that is absolutely unique. And I watch all the time. I'm watching my competitors all the time. We're looking at something that's completely unique because we're looking at a system that invites schools to go from top down. This is not a fad, it's not a phase, something that comes in and then falls out again. But actually it's something that what we will do is work with the schools so that it's embedded within the whole system. And we're asking schools to take on an ethos of diversity. And what that will mean, and you will see on your table shortly the strands, and we'll talk about the benchmark here, that they take it on as a whole school. And that means that's the environment, it's the curriculum, it's the CPD, it's the, ensuring that you've got representative staff. So from that point of view, what we have is really something special. I'm going to talk a little bit about that now. So we're going to start with a video, with this lovely video, all right? And then I'll come back and talk about that.
The One Bristol Curriculum it's an attempt to diversify the curriculum so that more people's stories are included, that celebrates people from diverse cultures.
Because students are only often still learning about slavery, a little bit about African kingdom, and that kind of tick box of Black History Month once a year.
A lot of people say like Black history, yeah, slavery and stuff, but then there's a lot more to it than that. Like there's achievements, there's the bus boycott, there's lots of things.
I think it's very important that young people are able to see people from their own culture or from different cultures as role models, and also part of their teaching and learning experience, because it creates a sense of belonging.
In lessons like this, we find out about people's cultures and we learn about what they've struggled through or what they've achieved. I think it's so important to learn about people's history because all of those stories represent hope and that people can do what they want to do.
Our students have come to us and they've said, yes, miss, it's great that we learn about Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King, but we need to hear about current heroes that are relevant to us, because they're talking about how important representation is. So when we're thinking about our career pathways, we can start to think about, yes, we see ourselves in engineering, we see ourselves in music, we see ourselves in theatre, so it becomes real life for them, not just a historical figure that they need to know.
By learning this from school, they will be proud to say, yeah, we are Black.
I'm proud of my Black history because we've achieved a lot of things.
All the stuff that we learn, all the good things, it's like, I felt really proud because that's what we've achieved.
I think for any teachers that are curious about the One Bristol curriculum, but not really sure about how to get involved, not really sure that they have the confidence to carry something like that through, that really it's just about community engagement, and that's an extension of our kids. So if you're interested in our kids, then you're interested in where they come from and you're interested in creating that sense of belonging.
Okay, so the One Bristol Curriculum actually engaged 4 primary schools and 6 secondary schools in pilot projects, and they commissioned a total of 17 pilots across 7 schools, which are complete. So therefore, we are seeing the work and the feedback that's coming back, and actually a lot of that is incredibly positive, as we can see in the next slide, for the impact. And we can see that in terms of impact for practitioners, teachers and students, okay, we're looking at this sort of like 100% practitioners said they benefited from taking part in the programme. Now, I just want to make sure people are aware that when we're talking about being part of the programme, when the schools sign up, it'll be a variance of teachers from, all different groups, but all of them have said they've benefited, teachers and practitioners, and again, very high results in how they rate their experience with the One Bristol Curriculum programme. Now, the benefits for students, Sibs, I can't read that, it's too small. You read that for me.
Yeah, the benefits for students is a reflection of what everyone has said, from Roger's comments to Sherry's comments to our Mayor Marvin Rees. Beyond the children that have been involved, it's also your own experiences from the children that you engage with in your schools. But what some of the students said here is that the benefits from OBC's program have seen across the whole cohort of pupils, including white pupils. This underlines the necessity of a diverse curriculum for all pupils, that all pupils can benefit from a deeper understanding of the relationships through history between culture and other cultures.
Okay, that's a lot of words, all right? But I will just say that as a teacher, I teach down in Malmesbury School, and I am so lucky because everybody gets involved in One Bristol Curriculum. I practice it on my children. I'm like, do you like this lesson? What do you think? And actually, all the children are getting so excited, and the staff. And my CEO actually came up to me and he said, you know what, Esther, I'm going to give you time off your timetable so you can do this work. And I was like, are you sure you're gonna pay me to go off? And he said, yeah. He goes, I just love everything that you're doing for the school and the uplift it gives. And even there was an old Irish lady. She's a TA. She came and she goes, I had to come back into your lesson because I wondered what you were going to do next. She was like, I've never seen history like this. So obviously that's me for history, but we have it in geography, we have it in science, we talk about displays and positiveness. So there's a lot of things there that, whether you're a teacher or you're the community, that can actually happen. And hopefully this is very, very collaborative, as we'll see in the process. So this website is going to be for everyone, okay? So the whole idea is it's a collaborative process within Bristol that even people outside of Bristol can use, because I know a lot of people have been calling me saying, if I'm in London, if I'm in Wales, if I'm, Cornwall, Devon, can I still use it? So basically what happens is the practitioners and teachers are matched together. And I do understand that in some schools this is already happening. So if you're making your own resources and you want to showcase it on One Bristol Curriculum, you can. But if they're new resources, the practitioners and teachers are matched together. The practitioners talk with teachers to share their work and start working on lesson plans. Now, this is very often, if you're in the community, you might have something that's really good, but it's not quite ready to be in schools because you're working in the community and you're thinking, well, how would that translate? And that's why we match you up with a teacher to say, when you go into schools, this is how you should design it. Then the teachers take forward the scheme of work, keeping in touch with the practitioners for assistance, and all the lesson plans and schemes of work are finalised and quality assured before they go on the website. And it's really very important that we do the quality assurance so that when you take on a lesson from One Bristol Curriculum, you feel safe to use it in your classroom, that you're not going to go into the classroom and suddenly it's like, oh my gosh, I've said something that I shouldn't. Because I know that some people are very wary about having these resources, having, teaching something they're not used to. So getting the lessons into schools, the lesson plans are submitted through the One Bristol Curriculum Teacher Network. A quality assurance team discusses and approves the lesson plans. The teaching materials are designed into a pack. The curriculum launches onto the website, and the teachers and schools to incorporate the One Bristol Curriculum into the curriculum, and then you have the implementation of the One Bristol Curriculum expands across Bristol. So it really just is an effective way of schools being able to feed into the One Bristol Curriculum, feed in their resources, and then it comes out the other end already quality assured, so it can go into schools and it's free. Okay, I keep saying it's free because it's free. Okay.
Yeah, so I just wanted to touch a little bit about the platform. So on your email confirmation, I sent you a link. So has everyone kind of logged in, or have you seen the website? Yeah? The one that's live on Google is not the same one to the link. So please have a look at the one on your link, because they're two different websites. So this is what the website looks like. There's curriculum resources. Curriculum resources is for all key stage groups. Enrichment is for activities that are not within the curriculum. And then school support is what Esther's going to touch on in terms of a benchmark, and then how you can be able to join. As you can see from here, these are the different schemes of work that will be available, both for early years, primary, secondary, and enrichment. Sorry. So if I scroll down. Contributor. Contributor happens in about 2 ways. So an individual can submit schemes of work, or schools can submit schemes of work. And that's where we have contributors. But majority of the time, we prefer that we work with contributors ourselves so that they are partnered with teachers, as Esther had said, and then we can then highlight the great work that they do. As an example, Cargo, as a contributor, an organization that's already making schemes of work, we can easily be able to promote and have Cargo here. DMAC, as an example, they've already got a whole schemes of work. We can easily be able to promote some of the work that they do over here too. But majority of the schemes of work will be on their own website. And then we have continued professional development. Do you want to touch on this?
Yeah, continued professional development. In all of the schools, what you do have is you have teacher training for teachers, okay? And when you have a new thing like this, the One Bristol Curriculum, I know that some teachers feel a bit wary about how will it work, you know, what do I need, what language do I use? We still are engaged in, you know, do I use BAME, do I use people of colour? You know, I've heard colour of the earth, you know, all sorts of things that people are like, well, what do I say, what do I use, how do I do it? So the CPD is really kind of like into sections. I know Justin and Sarah down there, they've been developing some fantastic CPD for us. In terms of cultural awareness, about diversity, how to bring in inclusion and diversity in schools. And so again, when you see our CEF, you'll see that we've outlined all the different kinds of CPD that teachers could have. And what we will have on the website are the CPD providers. So if you are a school and you want a CPD provider, you can go on the website and then you've got one that's already checked for you, so you know you'll get a quality service. Sorry. Right, so one of the things that makes One Bristol Curriculum very, very different, okay, and I have to thank Sarah and Justin back there, particularly Justin, I have to say, because he worked with me at Reeg and was really influential right at the very beginning of this. And it's the One Bristol Curriculum self-evaluation form, okay. Now, this is a design tool. It's a self-audit tool for schools, and what it does, it allows schools to have a look and to provide a baseline of where they are, and then it gives you a series of ideas of what you need to do in your toolkit to actually make your school into a properly inclusive and diverse organisation. Now, when you do this, one of the things that you know we are aware of is that Ofsted is asking all schools to explain their curriculum. You've got to justify your curriculum. So every school must justify their curriculum. And if you can justify your curriculum using One Bristol Curriculum, and again, we do have exemplar materials, and many thanks to Dominique. I know that's done a lot of work on that as well. Okay, so you do have to justify your curriculum. And the areas that we look at are these. We look at leadership, continuing professional development, curriculum and pedagogy, environment, pupil voice, recruitment and retention. I don't know if he's gone up there, but there is another one that is attainment and engagement. And the idea is that in terms of leadership, we are asking schools, and again, I can't impress upon you this enough, as a teacher in school, so often, you know, you are the one black teacher, and there are a lot of black teachers in school that are like literally like carrying the flag going, hey, you know what, there's some resources over here. And if you've been in teaching, I can see Sangeetha nodding her head, and you know, it's like you're just banging the drum by yourself. So no, it's not about that, and it's not about putting pressure on that teacher. It's about that school taking responsibility to say, okay, something needs to change, what can we do together? And it's embedded from the top down. And you know, and thank you very much. I don't know where Neil is right now, but Neil has been so influential in giving me some of those insights and ideas. And then the CPD is designed to then support teachers to bring that kind of curriculum into the school. And so therefore we identify the kind of needs that each school has. And then in terms of the curriculum, we ask every school to curriculum map what they have so far. So that's a ragging system. And the ragging system, have you got the ragging system that goes down? Yeah. So you have a ragging system, you can't quite see it there, but a ragging system to see what you've got so far, what you can get, okay, and there'll be some areas that might be a little bit more difficult, but how do you get around it? Now actually it's not a very long process to do that, so the ragging system goes in place, and then what you have is you then, for every subject, you then have that, what are we going to do? So you're trying to make an action plan and something that is manageable. Now, if all the schools in Bristol work together to do that, we're not saying to people, everybody, recreate the wheel. We're asking schools like cathedral schools who are music specialists to maybe make the music resources and put them on the website. So another school can pick those off the website, but they're a math specialist, so they put their math stuff on there. And then that way, through the collaboration in Bristol, what you then get is you get a wealth of resources that grows and grows and grows. And as a teacher, if you're not feeling very sure, you can start to look at those resources and you can use them. And as you become confident and as you work with One Bristol Curriculum, you can create your own resources and showcase them. And, showcase what's good, because there's a lot of great stuff right here in Bristol, so showcase the good. The environment, if you've ever been into a school, you can walk around the school. I made my governor do this the other day. I said, walk around the school and tell me what you see or don't see. And again, she walked around and she suddenly realised there were no black people in the entire school that was anywhere. They weren't on any poster, on anything. And she went, well, I never noticed that. And I said, I expect you didn't, because quite often we don't notice our environment, but as a black person, as black children, we do. And I talk to my children at school, and we talk about what things affect us. So the environment is about the environment you're in and how welcome it is and how much it makes you feel that you belong, how much it makes you feel that you are inspired to do more. And as well as that, it's about the student voice. How are your students feeling? Because I've been into schools and I've spoken to black children, and they said, Miss, you're the first black teacher that came to speak to us, because I'm not telling anyone else how I feel, because what's the point? So it's about how are they feeling? What do they feel? What do they want? So it's about that student voice. And actually, that's the student voice of all the students now, because I hear students, black and white, saying to me, Miss, I'd like a more diverse curriculum. And they thank me. They go, thank you. Thank you for doing that. When the Colson statue came down, I know it's controversial, so I'm not going to say too much, but when the Colson statue came down and I did lesson plans around it, the kids said, thank you. I didn't think that they would teach that in our school. And a big shout out to Lawrence whose poetry, he's on my wall at the moment as my favourite poet. But lots of really lovely ideas and resources around there. But again, it's about what you see. Pupil voice, of course, it's talking to the pupils. Recruitment and retention, we have just 4.4% of black teachers here in Bristol. The national average is 7.5. We have a shortage of 68,000 black teachers. 97% of all our head teachers are white. So again, it's about, are you encouraging people to go into teaching? And when they get there, what is their experience? We know that lots of people that actually go into teaching, they fall out even in the training year because they have no one to mentor them and help them. So for all those people from the Global Majority Network, thank you very much for providing a voice there. And then what we have is so recruitment, retention, and career mapping. And then attainment, again, I talked about the attainment gap. Many black students, and I can't say BAME because it's not the same for all students, but many black students who are in primary schools getting very low levels of attainment, and then they make these massive waves of they've progressed so far, but they never actually attain at the same level as their white counterparts. Now, how can that be? Okay, my son, when he went to school, I went, you know what? Let me do something different for you, because the system hadn't changed quick enough. to help him. And actually, the system, and you can talk to, people all over, and they will tell you their own little story. So the idea of attainment is about, are you monitoring that child so they attain at the same level, and are you able to put interventions in? And then lastly, engagement. Once you engage with One Bristol Curriculum, we're asking schools then to become lead practitioners and lead schools to actually help other people within One Bristol within the city. Okay? Is that okay? To join us? You want to do that?
So there's always contribution that people can, in terms of getting involved with One Bristol Curriculum. I think when we first started this, we didn't see how big this project could become. And of course, when you're looking at doing 6 strands, the work that's then involved needs more capacity, both in terms of administration capacity, both in terms of, making sure that we're engaging with the public and people are aware, so marketing is quite a key need in terms of where we are. This project has not been, I could say all the most resourced project. What it has been able to do is to work with less, but to make it look great. And thanks to the donation from Threshold, who contributed £10,000 to make this website happen, this looks this great. Otherwise, it wouldn't be looking at all like this. So, I'm a volunteer, S is a volunteer, Sherry's a volunteer, we're all volunteers, and majority of the time, this project is led by a project admin who, comes and goes. But that's not consistent enough to be able to deliver what we have in mind. So, based on your own skill sets and what you feel you can contribute, it would be great to see how you feel you can get involved with One Bristol Curriculum. Where we are so far is the companies are now independent, so it's limited by guarantees, so not for profit. We have just received pro bono support to convert to a charity. We'll be doing that over the next 3 months, because being a charity will mean that it's much better to be able to get grants or to get philanthropy support, because in this way, most funders don't fund projects that work in schools. Yeah, so it's really been quite a struggle in a way. So I'm really happy to see that we're able to do such amazing work with little. But most importantly, when more people come together, so much more can happen. So we really look forward to how you'll be able to join both as schools, as community, and as practitioners. Next is an open session in terms of Q&A. I'll just be setting up some of the chairs here. Over to you.
I'm just going to say thank you just before we do the Q&A, because so many people individually I know in here. I want to say thank you to Marvin for all of the stories that every time I go off and give an interview, I always go, and then Marvin says, and then he always has this lovely little story that's like just is lovely and enlightening, and then people think I'm really clever, but I stole it. But I always do check mark that I got it from you. And thank you to all the people in here that constantly help, because I know that a lot of the people that have come out today to support us has been fantastic. Sapman has been sat there on, texting away and stuff. So thank you to everybody. As we open up the Q&A, I think, is Neil's going to come up to be with us? Is Neil around? Oh, he's gone to school. So when we do Roger's coming up though, isn't it? Yeah. So Roger, do you want to come and take your seat up here, and we'll do this Q&A?
Come through. I think we've got a running mic. Where's the second mic? Can I put the other mic on? Yeah. Brilliant. Amazing. Great. So just open to any questions that you have from anything that you've heard today.
You could just sit.
Is that? Oh, perfect. It's on. Brilliant. Don't be shy.
So this is, I guess, an opportunity to ask any question that you've sort of conjured up as the presentation was going on. And also, for people who are joining us online, if you wanted to put a question in the chat, we will be able to access that as well. So, I mean, I'm just thinking, people online, people here, things like embedding. You were talking about embedding and how can that happen? Because I'm thinking, in my experience, when you talk maybe to head teachers and the best intentions are there, but they don't know how to follow it through, there's a problem, and that's going to be a clash. So what happens, for example, if the head isn't on board, but the teachers are very keen? So those kind of questions, I think, need to be answered. And also teachers feeling uncomfortable. So, for example, teaching about Black history, and teachers with the best will in the world want to teach about Black history, but they find it difficult. They find it difficult to gauge, to pitch it right for our children. So is there help and support from that point of view? Another example. And if schools aren't registered, if schools haven't said, yes, they want to get involved, but they want to access the resources, is that something that can happen or not because they haven't registered? So just putting those in your mind while you're thinking of questions yourself. We do have a roving mic. Marvin is helping us. Oh, you've got a question? Great, go on, Marv.
So it's really interesting to know what kind of reception has there been amongst schools within Bristol's boundary so far. But also, actually, we know that most people live across local authority boundaries as well. They'll live in South Gloucestershire, Baines, and North Somerset especially. So the extent to which there's been any expression of interest or how available it would be to our children going to neighbouring schools, particularly I think as well when there might be other isolated kids out in Backwell or at Thornbury or whatever.
In terms of the interest, we have more interest than we can actually engage because of the capacity of staff on the project. So we've got a waiting list of both teachers and schools that want to get involved with One Bristol Curriculum. It's just the capacity to actually engage with them that we currently don't have. But in terms of like the pilot engaged 17 schools, and I'd say now we probably have at least between 7 to 8 schools that are still interested in getting involved. And it's not just about Bristol schools. We also have schools in London, Manchester, and South Gloucester and so forth that are interested in being involved. I think one is about the process that we've achieved, and then also it's about accessing the resources.
What I would say is that I'm working with Dave Watson. He's down there, actually. That's lovely. And we've been talking to all of the heads, the CEOs in the whole of the Southwest. And we've had good response from there. We've had good feedback. They want to take it on. London, Wales. I'm writing resources for down in Devon. Even Devon are asking us, can you write resources for us because we don't have enough people here. So there is a massive need. So we do know that there's a massive need and people are engaging and they're coming forward. And it's interesting that even before the website's opened, people are individually phoning me up. So I get phone calls all the time and they go, can you come and help me? Can you come and do something? So there is a massive, massive demand. So, and again, it is literally coming from all over. So, we've had people from Nottingham, haven't we? Just come down to one of our meetings for 1 hour just because they were like, we need to see what you're doing. So, yeah, there's a huge engagement and anybody will be able to go onto the website.
I can speak directly to that from as a South Gloucestershire resident and working with South Gloucestershire Race Quality Network through its co-chairs, Siv Sharma and Carmen Anderson, and Alex Rakes from SARI sits on the board. And then I've had long-standing issues in South Gloucestershire there. So we've referred them to the One Bristol Curriculum as a resource and a point of help and contact, of which, as I say, we are blessed in Bristol, because you can throw a stone and hit 5 activists and academics in one night. You'll go a whole year without that in South Gloucestershire. So it's about nurture and mentoring support from us in Bristol, and making those links, because we've got them there. We went to waiting for the website to come up, and certainly through people like Dan Wood, who's the Equalities Officer there, and the Head of Education, we're pursuing those conversations, but they're ready and waiting. Once One Bristol Curriculum are up together, as Sib said, it's a capacity issue, but we've made those early inroads, certainly I have in South Gloucestershire.
Thank you very much. My name is Aliu Bello from the community side of things. I just want to congratulate the group that put this together. I think there is strength in streamlining and making One Bristol Curriculum. I think I like the name, I like the concept. I also like what has been achieved in a very brief period. But I just wanted to sound, to make a suggestion that this is not a quick fix. The issue has been there for a long time. How can we ensure that this thing will be able to continue? How can we sustain this? If we have a bunch of volunteers and resources are thin, we don't want this thing to die prematurely. How can we entrench this into the system? I don't think, I'm not saying that we will achieve a lot in 2 years, but it takes time to get this thing to have real impact. I'm just thinking that from the beginning, we have a plan and timeline to see that this thing doesn't die prematurely. The first question that comes to my mind.
Okay, so we have slightly different roles, myself and Sibs, and thank you very much for everything that you said there. So in terms of sustainability, in the schools, the way that we be sustainable in schools is we're not working necessarily just, although we work with individual teachers, we're asking the school to take it on. So for my school, for instance, I work with the CEO, I work with a governor, so we talk about having a governor that's dedicated to this like One Bristol Curriculum, that EDI theme, and then we also have a leadership team link. So we've made it very robust, because if you've got a governor that is responsible, and you've got someone in the leadership team, and you've got the head teacher, then again it makes it very robust, because they're kind of like feeding that down. And so it's not something that, years ago we had a resource that came in from the community and it kind of sat on a shelf, and every now and again it came out. This is actually going to be embedded through all of the subjects. So it comes from the head down. And then in terms of sustainability in what we're doing, Sibs will talk more about in terms of funding and that side of sustainability. But as we said, we're going to go into being a charity, and therefore we will have the donate button. We have people that we're talking to. We're looking at fundraising so that we've got more resources and more time to be able to do that. But this is something that I think we're all incredibly passionate about, and that's not going to drop. That is very much for sure.
Sustainability has been the main question, and that took about two years to actually agree what would happen, because this was a city initiative. That city initiative needed a home, and it needed to have a structure. So as Cognitive Powers was facilitating for that, but I didn't want this to be my company, because it's a city project, right? So once it became independent, that was step one, making it a limited by guarantee so that it can get some grants. But then what we found is that even when we are applying for grants, they don't fund things that go into schools that are mainly to address curriculum from our experience. So we then now need to move towards being a charity, which is another whole process, right? So I think becoming a charity will really make it more sustainable. 2, the conversation of charging schools to be involved in One Bristol Curriculum has been, do we do that, do we not? We've decided that we're not going to charge schools to be involved. But what we do charge is for CPD delivery in schools. That's what we do charge. And for our trained consultants that schools may need to implement One Bristol Curriculum. So you may want to take on, as a school, you may want to take on maths and say you want to diversify your maths key stage 1. So our role is to work with a subject lead who's a One Bristol consultant who go work with your school to help you embed a diverse scheme of work for maths. Therefore, you would pay for that fee. Yeah? And the lesson plans that are then created from that then become free resources for any other schools to be able to access and have. So that is why they would need to pay for the consultant's time. And from that, then we also are able to find, a portion of sustainability from that. So there's an element of trade that's working with schools and governors becomes really a key element in doing that. I hope that helps.
While you're here, Marvin, let's not miss that opportunity, eh, Sherry? We are obviously looking for funding because this is something for all our schools, all our children, all our people.
Can I just add to that a question? I'm going to turn this back, actually. As you know, because of the work that you've done, there is a lot that we have to build on it over the years. It goes right back to Bristol Race Equality Council. Education's always been there. There was a legacy commission that was from Paul Stevenson and so on and so forth. I brought a few books and that have been part of that. So it's about tapping into that. That's already there. That's been in the communities, not just in Bristol, through supplementary schools that are existing. So it's also, the plea goes out to people watching and listening today from the community to help support as well. These great guys, they've done most of the heavy lifting and turned that idea into action, but they need support, not just financial, of course that's one, but also to take forward. And we also need to do better at connecting the dots and working together. We can all work in isolation, that's great, we all got our independence, but also coming under more of an umbrella and helping out wherever we can. To strengthen the One Bristol Curriculum, because as a benefit of all, it keeps coming up, recurring over and over again. It was there, from the Co-Ed report of 1973, educationally subnormal, that we were labelled, and we're still facing those issues today. Part of that, I think, is for us to have some better coordination and better cooperation working together.
Yeah, hi everyone. It's really great today. I've really enjoyed being here. Thank you. My name is Domini. I'm chair of the regional BAME Ed organisation. I do a lot of work with Sib, Esther, Dave and various other people in this room, so I know a lot of you. I just wanted to talk about capacity a little bit, because I know that the pressure that you're under trying to take on the work and expand in the direction that you're going in. And I just had some thoughts about the work that you might do with other regional organisations like mine to share that capacity. And we share very similar vision. And also I sit on the Race Equality in Education group that's been set up by the local authority. And that's something we've been talking about a lot, that there are some regional organisations doing very similar work that could be working together more holistically to try and meet the capacity of what we need. I just wondered what your thoughts were on that.
I think collaboration has not been the easiest in terms of One Bristol Curriculum from the get-go. I think what people wanted to see was the vision. They wanted to see what is the sustainability. They wanted to see what is the team. Of course, to even be able to show vision, you need to have a collective of people along the way. In order to show sustainability, you need to have an agreed purpose with the team. So it was a situation of chicken and egg, because the city had conversations, they wanted something, but then afterwards don't really want to get involved in the nitty-gritty of it because can't see the vision. But I think it's really been great to work with the steering group. It's been really great to pick up the work from city conversation and then actually make that into a tangible thing. Now that it's more tangible, now it's much more easier and clearer to understand where we can have collaborations and where capacity can be stretched. Even working now with the UE team in terms of designing some of the benchmark and setting that, that's been very, very useful. But now we need to consolidate on that. We need to consolidate on the teacher consultant, and thanks to Emma Jarman, who's really been helping out with that, is we need to consolidate on a lot of these key things, make sure that in terms of capacity, so currently we have 20K that's unallocated because we haven't converted into a charity, so it's there, but it's not usable. So we do have that, and that's where we want to start off on a brand new slate for how we build capacity in the next phase of One Bristol Curriculum. So definitely welcome collaborations.
But can I also say, in terms of all of this, a lot of that heavy lifting, that first bit has been done. When I say that what we've got is unique, nobody else has that. And so although we have the capacity, we have, in terms of enough of us on the ground to be getting out there and doing everything, we are so in demand. So I just don't want that to kind of colour what we're kind of going, this is an amazing initiative. We have something unique in Bristol, and for people to think, is there a question? There's no question mark over it. What we have is what people want. And we will get that money, because you know what? I've had conversations where people have just literally said to me, that come and help us and tell me your price. And Dave will laugh at this, but because I think I spoke to him a little bit before, and they literally were like, just give me a price, sister, just give me a price because I want you. So don't let that overshadow, the work that's being done, okay?
Thank you. First thing is I just want to say well done, congratulations to everyone. It's been really eye-opening. I've had a little peek at what's been going on. But two questions, really. The first one is the name, One Bristol Curriculum. Esther says it's something that people want. I'd say it's something that people need, but not just for Bristol. Roger's spoken about right across different local authorities, not just in the greater Bristol area, but right across the country. And in terms of marketing, this is something that has to be rolled out nationally. So that Bristol name, as much as I'm proud Bristolian, something needs to be done in the long term so that this is a resource that's sent across the country. And the second thing, Sibs, you said something about sustainability, which for me is problematic, because if we're here being inspired at the launch, and then you tell us there's a waiting list, that worries me. Because I've got kids in a South Gloucestershire school who, all right, this is being streamed, but sometimes when it comes to race, they have not got a clue. They'll question why my daughter is wearing a black poppy rose and tell them that, no, it's just the red one. They seriously need stuff like this. So a waiting list for me is problematic. And I know Marvin's just shut off because he probably knew I was going to speak, but I think people like Marvin and others and local authorities need to invest more money. And I'm glad that Lawrence and Cargo have been mentioned in terms of the work they're doing across the city as well. And the final thing I'd say, sustainability, maybe schools should pay, not just for mentors, because when you pay for something, you value it. And maybe local authorities could ensure and guide and Ofsted, and we work from the top as well, that actually schools need things like the One Bristol Curriculum, and they have to set aside money in their budgets, which would help your sustainability as well. So questions about the name, and the rest of them are comments.
So in terms of the name, I think that just was a pass on from city conversation to having a curriculum for Bristol. I didn't want to change much of that, so I've just kind of left it, left that one as a hot potato. In terms of charging schools, definitely I agree. I've been taking my children around to seeing new schools, and what you hear from other parents is they'd ask, is this an art school? Are you signed up to Artsmark? Do you have Bristol music come in here, because they know what that quality is? And at the back of my head, I'm thinking, are you signed up to One Bristol Curriculum? You know, because in that, for me as a parent, I automatically would know what that means. So I think there is a strong case with that. I don't mind in terms of charging. That would be really a good thing. In terms of capacity, it's just, I mean, the staff that we had, she had to go back to university and she was a teacher. So she stopped in September. So now we've got this gap where we need to recuperate and think about the next role. Thank goodness for Nesbitt with a second round of funding to One Bristol Curriculum. Means that we can then have at least 2 staff members that can pick up this workload. I'm really confident that once it's a charity, a lot more can happen. But equally talking about collaboration, you know, you've got the History Commission that has been commissioned, you know what I mean? So how do we actually link with those different organizations that have been funded in one way or another, that links with schools, that links with curriculum to actually support and make this thing work? Because you know, we're not onerous of it. As Alu has said, this is local, national, and international in terms of the needs for diverse schemes of work. You've seen how cargo has been not only in Bristol, but has been in Liverpool, and you know, there's a huge demand for these kind of things. It's not just a Bristol thing, because I was inspired by a meeting held at UE called FACE, and we had a teacher from Nigeria who was talking about how she diversified Nigerian curriculum, but from a national, you know, from national, very colonized curriculum to being very authentic and cultural. And you can even see their uniforms are now cultural, you know, garments, right? And I really was inspired by that. So this model has been from what I've heard from her. So this is an international thing. I think it's just called One Bristol because that's where it started, but it's one curriculum. That, you know, I'd say it's one curriculum. The B's just
Pat, everything you say is absolutely right. But in terms of Bristol, I'm very proud of Bristol. And I love the fact that people are phoning up and they're saying, can we use your curriculum? And I'm like, yeah, you can. All right, from wherever you are, because it's here, you know, and a lot of the heart of what is going on is here, right here in Bristol. And we have so many talented people. I look around me and I just see talent and talent and talent and lots of talent. All right, so bearing that in mind, we got the name and we ran with the name. In terms of sustainability and it going into schools, I'm working with obviously the Bristol City Council, and this will go into every single school. So they will actually put it out for us and it will go into all of the schools, so they'll all be offered it, and then we'll be working with those schools, and we will build in that capacity. There's no question about it. Sherry is like a little rocket over here. She is like on our case all of the time, you know, and we, you know, we've got Roger, we've got such great people within us that I'm not worried. I'm not sitting here and worried today. Everything that we've wanted, everything that we've had, we've been blessed. Lawrence has supported us massively, you know, in terms of helping us to get the funding, you know, so I'm not worried. This is something that is going to change Bristol. It's started, it's happening, it's going to keep happening, and we're going to find a way.
Okay. Can we take... Check.
I think that schools having to not pay for One Bristol Curriculum is great because they get a chance to try One Bristol Curriculum to see how beneficial it can be for their students, whereas they may be on defense, and then when they get to try it, they'll actually be able to see just how great it is for them.
Hold on to that thought, Nisha, because we're going to come to you very shortly. Can we take the final question from the floor from this lady here?
Thank you. My name is Abby, and I just wanted to start off by saying this work is extremely necessary, very energising, very exciting, so thank you. I hear, Esther, what you're saying about local authority schools, and it's, again, really exciting that this is going through local authority schools. As an assistant principal myself in a secondary school in Bristol that's part of a very large chain, an academy chain, the reality for us is that our curriculum is developed by our trust. It's set by our trust. So this could be a challenge, but also a really big opportunity. And my question to you is, have you been able to engage with many of the academy chains within the area to be able to have that influence across large groups of schools?
Actually, the schools are coming to us. So I've just done training down at the Cathedral Trust schools. Schools are coming to us, and actually, even like BGS and places like that, we're working with the teachers. We're working upwards through to the heads and so on. So schools are coming to us, and because what we've got is different, even if you're an academy trust, an academy chain, you will see that the academies know that they have to do something different. So when I was down at the Cathedral Trust Day, what was interesting was the amount of work that had been going on. And even I'm part of a big chain of schools, and that's out in Wiltshire. And again, they're all taking it very seriously because they know something has got to happen. So we are working, and I am on the phone all the time talking to people. So if there's something that you feel like your school would want to be involved in, then we can come in and we can talk to you and we can kind of set that up, okay?
And also just a thought, this is for all of us really, when parents choose the school for their children, ask whether they have One Bristol Curriculum at that school. Ask whether they have it. And there's a question mark as to whether the child will go there or not. So there's something for us to work on there. That was our final question here. Can I say thank you very much for answering those questions. I'm going to ask you to leave the stage, but I'm going to ask Nisha to stay. Thank you, Esther. Yes. Okay. So we're going to have some, I'm not going to call it entertainment, spoken word and a reflection from Nisha. Nisha is actually on the steering committee. And I know I, for one, looking forward to what you've got to say, Nisha. Nisha is the youngest person on the steering committee and a lot of insight. And even though sometimes you don't say much, but when you talk, it's very powerful, and we appreciate that. So can we welcome Nisha Hussain to the stage?
So, hi, I'm Nisha Hussain, and I'm a third-year Bristol City Youth Counsellor. For just over a year now, I have been able to work with the One Bristol Curriculum Steering Committee, and yes, I am the youngest. I'm 15 years old, so being able to be a part of this company and to be a part of making it has been an amazing opportunity. Just to be able to see just how much does go into it, the time, the effort, the commitment has been an amazing opportunity, like I said. What I want to talk to you all about is how important One Bristol Curriculum is. 6 hours a day, 5 days a week, we go to school to get our education. Before we go to school, we know what our parents know. We believe what our parents believe, and we have all our knowledge from them. And then as we grow up, we create our own sense of individuality. We get to know what we want to find out about the world and who we are as people. Now, a lot of us will find our education to be a source of our knowledge. We believe what's in our education. We believe that it's real, it's true, and that it's factual. Now, growing up in a curriculum, an education that doesn't acknowledge your existence, I believe it creates a disconnect, not just with your learning, but with the people around you. And this is not okay. Our society is evolving. It's changing. We are more politically and socially aware than ever before. But education, it doesn't really seem to be keeping up. In English classes, you will study one Black poet, and the schools will expect us to be so grateful for this one gift of inclusivity. Well, here's the thing. We're not pleased. It's not enough. As something that plays such a massive role in creating who we are as people, we go to school for the majority of our lives, start of our lives, that create us as people. Bristol is one of the most diverse cities in all of the country. So it is absolutely necessary that One Bristol Curriculum is happening here and able to spread to the rest of the country. As someone myself who is multiracial and Muslim, it is exciting to find out what One Bristol Curriculum will do. Schools should be a safe space away from societal discrimination. I want us all to reflect on what is happening here. We are collectively influencing a future where even English students grow to be more open-minded and accepting of the people they may meet throughout their lives. And most of all, where young, minority ethnic young people feel seen and know that they belong. I think I speak for all people my age when I say that having a diverse curriculum will allow us to be ambitious, to know that we are a part of our society and that we can achieve whatever we want to. I speak for every Black, Asian, and multiracial person when I say, you have seen the least of what I can do. Thank you all for being here and supporting One Bristol Curriculum.
That was amazingly powerful. Thank you, Nisha. That's wonderful. Amazingly powerful words from our young person here today, but also on the steering committee. I'm very proud to have you on our steering committee, Nisha Hussain. Our next young person to speak is Mo. Mo, can I ask you to come to the stage? Mo is a very inspirational speaker too. He's fantastic with words. He is very often a keynote speaker, but today he's come to share your experience in your poetry and maybe a few words about your education that will encompass that. So, welcome, The Philosophy of Mo.
Hello, is that okay? Mic right? Yep. Oop, okay, there we go. First of all, can you please join me in giving Nisha one more round of applause, if that's okay? Honestly, so inspiring and yeah. So, thank you for that. Okay, I noticed, I've been here for at least an hour and I've been sat down and you've probably been here longer, so is it okay if we just stretch a little bit? Maybe get up, I'll play some Somali drumming for 10 seconds. Go on, get up, stretch, do what you gotta do something. There's a little rhythm. I'm the worst drummer, but that was a little something. I couldn't resist. I saw that when I was coming on, and I was like, you know what? I haven't did that since I was a kid in school. Not in school, in Somalia. Okay, are we stretched? Are we okay?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, we got our energy back. Awesome. All right, let's move on to the topic. So what I'll do, actually, is, and I've noticed that people were sharing stories, and I do genuinely believe that stories are probably one of the most powerful things that we could share with each other. So I will be sharing some stories with you. But on the sort of flip side of this, so what does it look like when it has been done correctly? So I'll reflect on my personal journey, and as I've been invited. Yes? Oh, yeah. So I'll reflect on my personal journey, and I will talk about, to keep it balanced, some good experiences in my school and one bad experience in my school. Obviously relating it to the theme and the topic of today's conversation. So, starting with the good, to give some background, I'm from Somalia. I came here when I was young. I started in primary school. And when I joined, I didn't know the language. But more importantly as well, I believe, I didn't know the culture. And that's why sometimes, at all levels, even at university, those that are fluent in English, but they come from a different country or from a different culture, they find it hard to integrate. So I didn't know the language, I didn't know the culture, and as a result, I got bullied. I was poor when I came to the country, and the only way I knew how to defend myself was to physically fight. So I got in trouble. But by the end of year 6, and in year 5, end of primary school, I knew the culture, I knew the language, I had lots of friends, and everything was all good. Fast forward to year 7 now, I'm in a new environment, from the youngest now, from being the oldest in primary. And for the first time, I was in a new environment, and I felt like I had to prove myself again. And what was it that I did the first time to get people to leave me alone? Well, I fought. So in the first couple of months, I ended up seeing the teacher over 10 times, head teacher, and I was due to be expelled. But looking at this, what success could potentially look like, I had a teacher, my head of year, very, very influential person in my life. She took me to the side, and we had a conversation. And she took the time out to realize why I was doing the things that I was doing. And she realized that it came from a place where my culture and my experiences and trying to fit in and doing it in the way that I know I can be fit in, or better yet, be left alone and just allowed me to be me. When she understood all of that, she gave me an opportunity. And she said to me, Mo, listen, we're not going to, we're going to give you one more opportunity here. We're not going to expel you, and we're going to allow you to stay, but you have to make a difference. And she really took the time to sit down with me, and I appreciate her for that. And as a result, I said, you know what, I need to change. And she showed me how. I wish we had a curriculum that did that for all my subjects, but sometimes it could just be an individual. And in that case, it was that teacher for me, and who understood who I was. And by the end of the this topic, by the way, I'll call it circles, because it's about completing circles. So that circle started there. And by the end of my secondary school, that same teacher, and in year 11, when you go to you get these little awards and stuff before prom, she said to me, if there was an award for the most changed individual, I would have given it to you. And yeah, so thanks to her, I got my GCSE, I got my grades, and she had a really good impact on me. Now, completing that circle, that's where the circle started. This year, I was approached to do some workshops and to deliver some work with students from primary school, a particular primary school, 6 of them individuals, and it was about helping them navigate that transition from year 6 into year 7. So I did 5 workshops in primary school with them, and then 5 workshops in secondary school with them, and helping them not make the same mistakes that I made. So the impact sometimes that an individual can have, like a teacher, allowed me to then go back and help those other young students who are from different backgrounds, right? Who were from different cultures. It allowed me to do that and support them in that transition, the same place that I found difficult. And the school has responded that, their secondary school, that it went really well, and that it's been smooth transition. So that circle has been completed there, and it was all about somebody taking the opportunity to really understand me. So that's one story of how it went well. One last story of how things didn't go so well. And fast forward to my A-levels now, and I love maths. Technically, I have a hate-love relationship with maths because I don't really get it, but I love it. But anyway, and so I was doing maths at A-levels. I got decent grades. I got an A in my GCSEs, and in my A-levels, first day. Imagine, all right. So first day of A-levels in maths. Just finished a 2-hour lecture. I go up to my teacher, and it's in break time, so I do it in my own spare time. And I'm like, "Excuse me, sir, how do I get an A-star in mathematics?" Because there's a certain way, you could get it in the core modules. You don't have to do an X amount, and you could still get it. So that was my question. And he looks at me. He goes, "Do you know how many miles there are to the moon?" I go, "No, I don't." He said, "If I told you how many miles there are to the moon, would it help you get there?" I said, "No, not necessarily." And he turns around and he walks away. So that was his way of basically saying there's no point in me telling you how to get an A-star. Now, you might think that might be an isolated incident, but it's not. And I had 2 maths A-level teachers. And the other teacher in so that was the first class, fast forward to Christmas now. And we done a mock, and 11 people got a U in the class, which probably says more about the teacher than myself. But she stood me up in the middle of the class and she says, "Mo, what did you get in your mock?" Knowing that I got a U because she marked it, I said, "Miss, I got a U." And she said, "Well, what do you think you will get in the real exam?" And I said, "I think I'll get an A." So she sends me out the class. My friends are laughing and whatnot. And then she speaks to me in the hallway and she says, "All right, your friends aren't watching right now. What do you think you'll get in the real exam?" And then I said, "Well, I think I'll get an A, miss. I genuinely believe that." And instead of saying, "Okay, best of luck to you," she gets even more upset. She calls my parents and she's like, "Mo needs to drop out of mathematics." And her reasoning for that, evidence-based, I just got a U, right, in my mock. The real exam is right after the Christmas holidays. There's no teaching period in between, so she couldn't make that difference to go from a U to a D or a C, right, because she couldn't teach me in between. And so she was like, "It's not too late. He could change courses. He could do something else, but we feel like Mo's not going to make it in maths," right? And so that's what she said, and that's what she did. And I just kept my head down and I worked. And when the real exam came, I ended up getting the highest in the school. I got 96 out of 100. In fact, it was a joint school. There was one other person who got the exact same grade as me in the other school. So I got the highest in the school. Now you're thinking, great, she's going to be there and she's going to be like, "Well done, Mo." No. Fast forward to February, March, whenever the parents' evening day was, I was the only person in the entire school who got predicted lower than what they had actually got. I got predicted a B, even though technically what I got was an A, or a 96 out of 100. Now, you might look at that and say, okay, well, what's going on here? When my science teacher is saying to the next person who's white what they need to do to get an A star or an A, but when that same science teacher comes to me and they're telling me how I could get a C, you can't help but internalize that as this is something to do with culture, or it's something to do with my skin, or it's something to do with anything other than the facts that are actually there. Because even when I get the grades, they're not reflected in how I'm being treated. So that's an example of how it goes wrong. But what do you do in that situation? Because remember, the talk is about circles, right? So in that first circle, the teacher helped me and I went back to help somebody else. Well, how do you complete this circle? Well, last time we spoke, and it was the first African, and what was it? What was the event? It was the first ever Black History Month from the ACS Society. Yeah, so it was the first ever Black History Month that we spoke at, and I shared that story with them, and I was at university at the time, studying mathematics, and at Russell Group University, and I said to them that what I will do is I'm going to graduate, and I'm going to get my certificate, and at the very bottom, I'm going to write exactly how many miles there are to the moon. I made that promise. Wow. I got something for you here today. There you go. There is my certificate. And at the very bottom, it says exactly how many miles there are to the moon. 238,855, which is on average because obviously the moon fluctuates. But yeah, so that is my way of completing that circle. And I'm hoping that I could put that up somewhere in the school once I reach out to them. But yeah, so that's an example of how something went well, how it could go bad, and in terms of just ending it perhaps with a bit of poetry. It's not mine, and this is someone else's poem actually, but I thought it would be the most appropriate. And that is whatever it is that you want to do, whatever circles that you would like to complete, right? And may it be educational, financial, personal, spiritual, whatever it is that you want to do. And I say to you what Les Brown said to me, which is, if you want something bad enough to go out and fight for it, to work day and night for it, to lose your time, your peace, and your sleep for it, and if all of your dream and scheme is about it, and life seems useless and worthless without it, and if you gladly sweat for it, fret for it, and plan for it, and lose all your terror of the opposition for it, and if you simply go after that thing that you want with all of your capacity, strength and sagacity, faith, hope, and confidence, and stern pertinacity, If neither cold nor poverty, famine nor goat, sickness nor pain of body and brain can keep you away from that thing that you want. If dogged and grim you beseech and beset it, with the help of God you will get it. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow. The philosophy of Mo. Wonderful stuff. And very, very powerful story, and it really is generational, isn't it? Some of what you said, I'm sure that so many people resonate with you. I resonate with you. I'm sure people online have resonated too. It's generational. My son has actually been through what you've been through as well, Mo. So it kind of broke my heart, but we're doing something about it. In this presentation mode, I've been asked to present my poem. This is the last entertainment of today. We've got the workshop after this, we've got David Lammy's letter, and we also have lunch. So, without further ado, we spoke about stories earlier. This is my story. It is in the form of a poem, and many people have heard it before, but I've adapted it slightly to fit in with One Bristol Curriculum. It's called School Day Memories. So, it was 1964 when I appeared in the world. Southmead Hospital, all wrinkled and curled. Mum and Dad had already had 6 between Dominica and me in St. Werbix. They brought us up strict with lots of love. The moment we spoke, a book they would shove in front of our faces, knowing the need to recognize letters in order to read. Early school, fascinating, fun, games and play. Lunch was the best, shepherd's pie, carrots and egg curry. Soon realized that lunch was the least of my worry. Go to school to learn, Mum and Dad said, but I was made to feel different. It stuck in my head. My hair wasn't like theirs, it didn't flow in the wind. My skin was black like porcelain. My nose was flat, hide it with a tissue. My clothes homemade, like money was an issue. Church once weekly made all things well. Sunday dinner, tummy swell, highly seasoned chicken wings, curry smells and all them things. Family laughter, baptisms and weddings. All these memories make me smile, but ridicule from the ignorant wipes it all away, vile. Back to school on Monday, and I wanted to be there, but how could I learn when I felt you didn't really care? You thought that I was clueless, that my parents were not bright. You felt that I was stupid, taking education light. But I was hungry, eager to take it all in, wanted to learn about algebra and chop in. Literature excited me, science made me enthuse, do the best that I could do. What did I have to lose? I actually lost my self-respect when you taught us about slavery, when all the others in the class turned round and laid their eyes on me. What I learned in class that day, you see, was that subjugation was all about me. You forgot about the kings and queens of Kemet, the ones who shared my hue, the ones who ruled over Africa and didn't look like you. Why didn't I know that mathematics was conjured from my forebearers, that the kingdom of Axum, or ancient Ethiopia, was founded by the son of King Solomon and the queen of Sheba? Doesn't matter if you come from St. Paul's, St. Werb's or Easton, Clifton, Kingswood or Bishopston. Matters not if you wear a salwar kameez. In some schools, that's a no-no. My A-star friend wears a kimono with pride, no time to hide. Wear your sari, wrap or turban or topi and hold your head high for you and for me. It doesn't matter if yam and dasheen is your meal or bami or madras. Feel good about your Irish stew and love your peas and mash. What matters is your attitude, your willingness to learn, your helpfulness and consciousness of valuable concern. What matters are your parents and their quest to get things right, their passion and selflessness, the things they would do, work all hours, curse you off, and give their food to you. What matters is their interest to ask you about school, what your homework is, and whether history was cool. What matters is the curriculum, that it values us, it's clear, and that after year 6, our black boys aren't seen as ones to fear. If you're going to achieve, you're going to have to work hard. Forget your mates and stay in your yard. If they want to gallivant, that's up to them. Stay at home, pray on your knees that you'll pass all 10 GCSEs. No time to play, no time to make hay, no time for sport or TV or radio, just books, wash hair and go. Oh, hair. Remember when we'd press our fringe and feel good to compare it with Jane or Susie? The comb would slide straight through it, but it wouldn't last a minute. The rain would come like a shower of hate to shrivel up the straight. In truth, I was lucky. I had it all, actually. Good family, nice friends, and school, and spirituality. Mind you, some barriers were there to throw me, to put me off, to show me that I was not good enough, not clever enough, and not got enough of what it takes to achieve. But the One Bristol Curriculum could help me to believe. Thank you. Thank you. Woo. Thank you very much. Some thoughts there that maybe lead into the workshop. So we are at that time where we break up for the workshop. We have teas and coffees. Help yourself to that. Shake your legs, come back to your tables. And it would be great if, by now you'll know people from your tables, but it would be great if you didn't know people on your tables. I'll leave it to you, 3s or 4s because of social distancing. The questions: how are you embedding equality, diversity, inclusion in your school? And what are your EDI ambitions for your school? That's the first question, and Esther is going to come and lead that one. The second question, which Sibs is going to lead, website usability testing. How is the functionality? How user-friendly is the site? And what would you improve, remove, or introduce? So each table will need a facilitator. We will put paper, pens, everything on your tables if you haven't got there already. And we will ask the facilitators to just come back and briefly feedback. All that information will be used later on. So for now, let's have refreshment if you want to, and then come back and we'll start the workshop, and Sibs and Esther will lead that off. We will be having lunch after, so please don't go away. Thank you.
Imagine growing up in a world where you are overlooked. What if you do not see yourself anywhere? What if you don't feel any connection? Until society represents everyone, the questions will always be, where do I belong? Do I belong? It is time to rethink representation. Now, I believe representation is vital because it provides the opportunity for your existence to be acknowledged in this world. Now, representation can take many forms.
Yeah. So, David, what does One Bristol mean to you, and why is it important?
So first of all, I'm delighted to be associated with One Bristol Curriculum. I think it's really important. I think, from my perspective, I think I've been saying this in the steering group, that we need to be really clear on the why and what does success look like. And for me, as an educator, we know that the curriculum is important for young people. We use the phrase that knowledge is power. And we know that we want our children to achieve the core knowledge. I think One Bristol Curriculum adds to that store of knowledge for our young people to understand their contribution to the world, but also how they can make a further contribution by being proud of who they are. So from my perspective, this is not about being at odds with what happens already. It's adding more value so that we can make this city, our country, more inclusive, and achieve greater things for our young people. So for that, I'm really excited, and I know that's what we are trying to achieve.
What does One Bristol mean to you, and why is it important?
I think what it means to me is progress, long overdue progress, I guess. We've heard stories about people growing up and not seeing any history or any part of the curriculum that relates to them. And so the reason it's so important to me is that my kids with a One Bristol curriculum are going to be able to grow up and see themselves. They're going to feel proud of where they came from, proud of the achievements of their ancestors, and that in terms of education is a massive game changer, because it just means that they're going to grow up, feel confident and proud in school that contributions in mathematics and science and history came from people that look like them, and it's absolutely crucial.
Fantastic, thank you very much. I'm here with Dominique, Deputy Head Teacher at Cottam. Quick question, what does One Bristol Curriculum mean to you, and why is it important?
At Cottam, we've got a really diverse school where more than 50% of our students are Black or Asian, and until recently most of our staff have not been representative of our students, and I think it's so important for our young people, not just our Black and Asian students, but actually our white students, to hear about accurate history and achievements, and I'm really committed to that. So the work we do at Cottam isn't just about history, but it's across all our subjects, rewriting the knowledge that we have learnt, and that, you know, I grew up learning as well, and understanding what is the truth of that knowledge, and our students are really engaging with it. We do a lot of student voice on how they're finding it, and staff, and people are surprised when you genuinely present a different perspective to them of something that they always thought was true, and that they've suddenly realised actually perhaps it isn't, and perhaps there's a different way of looking at it. And one of the things I think that is the benefit of it is that they start to have pride, especially our Black and Asian students, start to have real pride in their histories and their ancestors and where they've come from and their origin stories, and they want to know more. But equally, our white students have actually been quite angry about it and said, well, why are we not told this? Why did we not know, for example, that although Thomas Edison invented the light bulb, that the filament inside was invented by a Black man, you know, and that the light bulb wouldn't even work if he hadn't? And why do we not know that? And people are angry and they want to know the truth.
You've heard it. This is why it's important. One Bristol Curriculum.
Welcome back to people joining us on stream. So we have just about round up the workshops, the questions: how are you embedding equality, diversity and inclusion in your school, and what are your EDI ambitions? And the One Bristol Curriculum website, we need your user experience. So I'm going to ask Sibs to go around the tables and collect some feedback.
Yeah, I'm going to start at this table over here. Hi, can I just grab your attention? Let's hear what this table has to say. They were looking at the website.
Yeah, some of the sign up went round to junk, was it? Yeah, it went round to junk mail when you went to sign up. So there's something, it's just looping into a place where it would make you feel that it's not working.
Okay.
So that was happening on there.
So when you sign up, it takes you to junk mail?
Yeah, a couple of times. It seems that it's operating differently on the phone compared to on the laptop. And by trying to access the lessons on the phone, it was looping us back around to the resources menu again.
Okay.
Which, if you just got on there for the first time, it'd make you feel that there aren't any lessons available.
Yeah.
But then when we went and then logged in on other ones through the laptop, or the computer, it then actually took us to the lessons. But we noticed that with the first lesson that comes up, I can't remember which one it was called, that one didn't seem like that had the resources ready for it yet. But it's the first one in your menu.
Yeah.
But in the second, third and fourth all do.
Yeah.
So if someone just comes in first of all, and that's the one they go to because it's the first one they see, it could make it look like there aren't any resources available.
Okay.
And then another quote. Yeah. Yeah, the link with Ofsted, is that they've been accepted as being used by Ofsted, or is that what we're working towards to get them?
There's a link by
That was
Ofsted.
given in the talk.
Oh, no. We're using the same benchmark.
Okay, cool.
Intent, implement, and impact. Yeah.
Yeah, and on one of it, is it, so we weren't quite clear, even though we're on here, is if they are linked lesson plans already, so they can just draw this off, and what it will mark against the key stages are there, or if they're a source that can be used by the teachers to enable a resource to be marked against the key stages.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah?
Yeah. Oh, that's a heavy one. All right. Any other comments?
Yeah, no, it's there. It wasn't there before. It's good. We're looking at it, and it's like the first view at the beginning was when we were just getting looped through, like, oh no, and now that we're seeing that there's work there, you know, and you're on a journey going forward. So yes,
The colours, the logo, everything else.
everything's in there, and there's information there. Yeah, good.
Technicalities are important as well, but presentation, the outlook is good. But we want it to be resources that is available to take out.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. We have another table.
Sibs, while you're there, can we go to the children? I know they had a question.
Okay,
I don't know
good.
whether the children want to speak. Can you read what they've written, Daddy?
Yes, Mrs. Hart. So, our little ones, obviously, we haven't looked at the website, but they did talk about equality and diversity at school. And just the two things that are written down, one of them just says we should get new books and things with images of people of different cultures in their schools. And the other thing, it says, although it's hard to know which ones are not offensive, we should learn the correct and empowering terms to use for people of different races. So those are their thoughts about their experience in school, and they sound very basic, but sometimes when their teachers don't even know what is and isn't offensive, is problematic. So well done, Sienna and India.
Champion. Thank you very much for your comments. Wow.
Well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Feedback from
Some young courage over there. There you go. Thank you.
Okay, so in response to question A, just to be accurate, there's two schools represented here, so Cottam and Bristol Brunel Academy, which I also used to work at. So just to cover the work that we're doing at BBA, both schools actually are working towards the Anti-Racist School Award, which is through Leeds Beckett University. At BBA, they have committed to the HALO project, which you might know about, which is about hair and ensuring that our students are not discriminated against because of their hair. Also, BBA have been doing a lot of work around recruitment leadership and a lot of student-led work as well. We work quite closely together, the two schools, and we take ideas from each other. Like Black History Month, we did quite a bit of work together. There's a lot of EDI, CPD that's done at both schools on inset days. Almost every inset training day is committed to EDI training for staff. At Cottam, we created a staff and student race equality library. We're also focused on recruitment and have worked really hard to diversify our recruitment, and we've seen the impact of that, which is great. We've got student leadership projects happening, and we work with the University of Bristol on race equality projects through our student leadership as well. We are actually decolonising our entire Key Stage 3 curriculum. We have been for about 2 years now, and we're moved beyond just looking at diversity and representation, and we're now starting to challenge how knowledge has historically been created, because that's really important, and understanding the journey of colonisation to be able to decolonise a curriculum. And then we've also been working with other schools across the southwest because I'm the chair of BAMED, and so I try and do that work more broadly with COTM. And then the CPD with staff has really gone on a journey from 2.5 years ago, where we started talking about unconscious bias, to developing their confidence in being actively anti-racist, and also having the racial literacy to actually teach a decolonized curriculum. Otherwise, as Esther mentioned earlier, you've got quite terrified teachers who don't quite know how to approach it. Do you want feedback on your website?
Yeah, sure, go on.
Okay. I'm going to say, put BAMED Bristol's website on your external links and support for schools. Yeah. But also we thought the usability is really good. They're really nice images. It's colourful. It's laid out well. It's easy to use.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your feedback.
Thank you, Dominic. Can I just ask for one more feedback, because we are over time. We have David Lammy's speech, which I will read, and we also have lunch, which we have loads of lunch, so people can actually take some away with them as well. So if we just have one more feedback, everything will be recorded, even though we're not feeding back today, so we will still benefit from what you've written.
Hi, so I'm going to go through the EDI focus at my school, which is Sidcott School in North Somerset. So we're really new to the whole process. I'm Equalities lead, and I've only been in the position for about 10 weeks. So my first point is I really need to get more teachers and parents on board, and that's been quite difficult, but I am only 10 weeks in. We set up a student and staff group focused on diversity, but that's obviously an ongoing process. We have only about 20 students from Afro-Caribbean backgrounds, but they really wanted a pupil-led society where they can talk about their own issues. And we've also celebrated our very first Black History Month, which did go down really, really well. And we had a lot of support from the school. In September and in January, we had 2 speakers. So that's ongoing, and that was also an EDI focus. We've also got, do you want to talk about yours quickly? Just your role? Yeah?
Sure. So I deliver inclusion and diversity training with Babasa. I used to be a teacher, left in the summer holidays of this year. And yeah, our school had nothing. However, what I've noticed going out into the private sector is they're more willing to talk about inclusion and diversity because I guess they can see profits, right, behind it. However, with the public sector, schools were so behind. So I think what would be an ambition for schools would be to have like a clear timeline of objectives and that transparency. So if you were to click on their website, for example, you can see that they're actually doing the work. And be transparent, come from a place, we're doing nothing now, but this is where we want to be. And as somebody who's a teacher, I used to be a teacher. If I'm applying for a job at that school, I can see that they're doing the work or they're going to do the work. Equally, if I had a pupil, like a child I want to send to that school, I could see that the work is going to be done as well. And then celebrating those wins, I think is really important.
Wow. Great. Thank you all for your contributions. That's really great.
And also, once a teacher, always a teacher. We always need you to know, and we need us to know that you will always be a teacher. You always have that skill. Nothing on the website, but at this point, I do want to say a huge, huge thank you to people who have invested, who have put money in, including the Nisbet Trust, Fiona Craig from Thresholds, and also Marty Burgess, who is here from Lakota, One Bristol, and the Society of Merchant Ventures. So we appreciate all the funding we've received so far. So thank you, Marty. I don't know whether you would like to say a few words on this question. No? You're all right? Okay. All right. That's lovely. So, like I say, thank you for all that feedback. It's valuable, and we will be using it. But we have virtually come towards the end. I want to say thank you to everyone who is here. Thank you also to people who are joining us online. And I know you're wondering what happened to the 1 o'clock finish. It's okay. Hope you're still there with us. I do want to read David Lammy's letter. He apologizes for not being here in person, but he's asked whether this can be read out, and it's my pleasure to read it now from David Lammy, MP. So he says, "Dear all, I didn't realize I was black until I was about 8 years old. It was only a term that I acknowledged when someone told me I was black. For my first few years on this planet, I didn't see myself as any different from any other kids. In a way, my experience reflects what non-white people have experienced for generations. The term black, or to use its Spanish translation, negro, did not enter everyday speech corrupted. In fact, in its Indo-European origin, scholars will tell you black, which meant fire shining white or flashing in various bright colors, was dry in negative association and without racial connotations. But for the past 400 years, since the arrival of the first Africans from the Dongo region of the Congo Kingdom in the British colony of Jamestown in 1619, in what would have become the US, it has taken on a darker meaning and became the preferred European way to refer to us. This was neither accidental nor an accident. It did not work for Europeans to acknowledge my ancestors as Africans. This would have made them all too human. Instead, they needed a label that would separate us from them. We were dehumanized. Our relics and history were destroyed by empires, plundering and pillaging as they went. And thus, the culture we live in today is one which our history continues to be sidelined. It does not work for those in power to give us our identity through history, as we are still not seen as equivalent human beings. To do so would be to give us too much power. But we are taking power back. The outstanding work of teachers, NGOs, and others working in the community has meant that for the first time in history, real history is being taught. Black history is rich and powerful. Through focusing on erased histories, decolonizing the curriculum shows the deep interconnectedness of the world. Stressing these interconnections allows us to look at topics that dominate our curricula through new eyes. I wish we lived in a world where we didn't need a Black History Month. I wish that Black history was so ingrained into the teaching of British history that there would be no need to take such measures. This is why the only way to make meaningful, long-lasting change is to have a curriculum that reflects real British history. I wish I lived in a society where the contribution of people of African descent was inextricably linked to our understanding of mankind and contributions across the planet. Unfortunately, we don't live in that world yet. But the work of organizations such as the One Bristol Curriculum demonstrates those who become the change they want to see in this world. Black history isn't just for Black people. It's an opportunity for us all to open our minds to a history denied to all of us. Bristol is the epicenter of this discussion. It has a history that is intrinsically linked to empire, slavery, and exploitation, but it's also the center of resistance and reform. I look forward to meeting Marvin again and finding out more about the fantastic work the One Bristol Curriculum is carrying out. Best wishes, David. So, there we go. That's David Lammy, MP, and that's his keynote address, which has been recorded. So we have virtually come to the end. And I know we did say we were going to have a response from Sibs and Esther, but I think we need to just round up now. And I'm actually going to end as we started, we said a moment. This is a moment in time, our time. We are closing the gaps. We are changing the narrative. I encourage you all to spread the word here, out there. Don't be left behind with this. Enroll your school. It's like climate change, isn't it? It really is like climate change. This is our time. There is no going back. Ladies and gentlemen, children, teachers, head teachers, deputy heads, educators, the steering committee, the people who have sponsored today, thank you. Thank you. Now let's have lunch.
The One Bristol Curriculum. It's an attempt to diversify the curriculum so that more people's stories are included, that celebrates people from diverse cultures.
Because students are only often still learning about slavery, a little bit about African kingdom, and that kind of tick box of Black History Month once a year.
A lot of people say like Black history, yeah, slavery and stuff, but then there's a lot more to it than that. Like there's achievements, there's the bus boycott, there's lots of things.
I think it's very important that young people are able to see people from their own culture or from different cultures as role models and also part of their teaching and learning experience, because it creates a sense of belonging.
In lessons like this, we find out about people's cultures and we learn about what they've struggled through or what they've achieved. I think it's so important to learn about people's history because all of those stories represent hope and that people can do what they want to do.
Our students have come to us and they've said, yes, Miss, it's great that we learn about Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King, but we need to hear about current heroes that are relevant to us because they're talking about how important representation is. So when we're thinking about our career pathways, we can start to think about, yes, we see ourselves in engineering, we see ourselves in music, we see ourselves in theatre, so it becomes real life for them, not just a historical figure that they need to know.
By learning this from school, they will be proud to say, yeah, we are Black.
I'm proud of my Black history because we've achieved a lot of things.
All the stuff that we learn, all the good things, it's like, I felt really proud because that's what we've achieved.
I think for any teachers that are curious about the One Bristol Curriculum, but not really sure about how to get involved, not really sure that they have the confidence to carry something like that through, that really it's just about community engagement, and that's an extension of our kids. So if you're interested in our kids, then you're interested in where they come from and you're interested in creating that sense of belonging.